Today we rely more than ever on the internet and digital marketplaces for video game purchases. Each year the percentage of physical game sales declines while the percentage of digital video game sales continues to increase year over year. While there are many pros to these digital marketplaces, there are also a considerable amount of cons to them as well, and they may be bigger than we realize. I am in no way hating on these markets, as they are filling a market that clearly exists, and I myself indulge in. They may have lasting impacts on one of many people's favorite hobbies. Before we get into why a digital future cannot work for video games, let's first talk about how we got here and how we even got to playing video games in our own homes, and how we became at the mercy of the publishers and what they wanted to release. Arcade machines were popular during the 1970s and mid-1980s. Games like Street Fighter, Street Fighter II, Mortal Kombat, Asteroids, and Pac-Man were some of the most popular games during this time. Nintendo introduced Donkey Kong in 1981, which would be the start of their long-running theme of running and jumping. Nintendo would release their first home entertainment console called the Famicom in Japan in July of 1983. And would later release it to America only 3 years later. This would release with Duck Hunt along with No Fucks Given, Yahoo himself, and Super Mario Bros. This would prove that video games were a popular enough medium that people were willing to spend a couple $100 for the hours of entertainment that video games were able to create. As technology improved, so did the hardware and software that companies were able to produce. In 1990, Nintendo introduced the Super Famicom, a 16-bit system which was an improvement over the previous version, only having 8-bit graphics. It was released in America in 1991 as the Super Nintendo Entertainment System, or the SNES. Sony released the PS1 in America in 1995, which would be the first time that Nintendo would face true head-to-head competition since Sega in the late 1980s and only in early 1990s. PS1 introduced the use of CD-based storage for gaming, and the PlayStation relied solely on CDs to play games. This also played into the advantage of the PlayStation because it allowed people to also play things such as music CDs on it. Nintendo would still use cartridges for their consoles, which did not allow for as much storage and also limited the capabilities of the games that could be produced. Nintendo would find major success with their handheld line of systems, releasing the Game Boy in 1989, and then the Game Boy Pocket, which was a smaller version of the original with a sharper screen, released 2 years later. Nintendo would release the Game Boy Pocket 7 years later in 1996, which was similar to the original Game Boy but featured a sharper screen. 2 years later they released, holy shit, you know what this thing needs? To look appealing. So only 9 years after the original release to complete the trilogy of the Game Boy saga, they released the Game Boy Color. Then, later on, because Nintendo said the 2000s needs a gaming handheld, they released the Game Boy Advance in 2001, and it would be discontinued in 2009. They would also release a smaller, foldable version of the Game Boy SP in 2002, and they would also go on to release the Game Boy Micro, which was a tiny Game Boy. For those of you who needed a little bit more testing of your gamer skills, would be released in 2005. Which made no sense because a year earlier they released the Nintendo DS. And then the Nintendo DS Lite in 2006, Nintendo DSi in 2008, Nintendo DSi XL in 2009, the Nintendo 3DS in 2011, Nintendo 3DS XL in 2012, Nintendo 3DS, 2DS, Nintendo 2DS in 2013, new Nintendo 3DS in 2014, new Nintendo 3DS XL in 2014, new Nintendo 2DS XL in 2017. To say that Nintendo was trying to take over the handheld market would be an understatement. No other competitor stood a chance. No wonder the PSP failed. The Vita's barely hanging in there, but surely it will be next to go. This indicates that Nintendo was an early adapter of the re-release process, taking the original and slightly altering it to make more money on a new quote-unquote model. Fond memories of playing Pokemon with friends. Cut that out. I remember having fond memories of playing the Nintendo DS back in the day when I was a kid, and hunting Pokemon, trading Pokemon, finding legendaries, looking for shinies with friends and shit. Those were the fucking days. And discovering new things, neat tricks, and unique Pokemon was a time to be alive. Playing games with friends gave me a deeper love for video games and served as some of my favorite and best memories of my life. So now that you have a little bit of knowledge of how we got here and where it all started, I want to give you my experience with games and why it sucks to see it go the way it has, and to see where it is headed. Because things aren't looking good, guys. With each year, physical sales declining and digital online marketplaces being the new thing, it sucks to see. They even think about a future where everything is digitized and online, and maybe I'm just stuck in the past. I don't know. You never know. But hell, I'm only fucking 20 years old and I'm already scared of where the fuck we're gonna be at. You know, we don't own anything. You know, everything's run by one big company. We're at the mercy of the companies. It's just, I don't know, man. It's craziness. But I vividly remember having memories of playing my first my first video game, which was Lego Star Wars 2. It blew my fucking mind how similar it looked to the movie, which was the only movie I saw out of Star Wars saga at that time, by the way. I thought it was funny as shit that when someone died, they broke out into a bunch of little pieces. You know, whenever you fucking chop someone up or something, you shoot them, they fucking explode into a million Lego pieces. I always thought that was cool. I spent hours in the saloon that you spawn in just starting battles with people. That was another cool feature, was that if you shot someone, a shootout would break out in the saloon for a few seconds. This was just a unique touch that, you know, you don't see unique touches like that nowadays in all games. I don't know, it's just the little things I appreciated. The first console I ever got was for my 5th birthday, and it was the Nintendo GameCube, along with Super Smash Bros. Melee. And I fucking loved this shit. I played it for hours, days. That was the only thing I would play on my GameCube. I had tons of GameCube games, and after I'd end up beating them, I'd always go back to the same thing. I remember begging my dad to get me a GameCube with a copy of Super Smash Bros. Melee. I wanted this game in particular so bad because it was a fighting game that included characters from the Mario, Legend of Zelda, and at the time, the one I was most excited for, Pokemon. I waited to play as Pikachu, who at the time was one of my favorite characters, and I would come to enjoy the other classic GameCube games, such as Super Mario Sunshine, Metroid Prime, and a collection of Legend of Zelda games. A few years later, I got a PS2, which I would spend hours replaying games on. It didn't have as much of an impact on me as the GameCube did, however. And I'd always find myself going back to the classic GameCube. Even to this day, I still find myself every once in a while going back to it. Just not only for nostalgia, but for just the feeling it gives me, I guess. But then I got my Nintendo DS, which was one of the greatest moments of my life. Not when I lost my V card, and when I got my Nintendo DS, it was one of the greatest moments of my life. Not when I lost my V card, but when I finally got my hands on that Nintendo DS. A handheld game console. Now I could bring all the fucking joys of hours of fun with me anywhere I went. And I did. My favorite games were New Super Mario Bros., Mario Basketball, Super Mario 64 DS, and my favorite series of all time, Pokemon. I fucking played Pokemon for hours, and I didn't even know that there was a story half the time. I'd just fucking be wandering around just trying to level up my Pokemon, find new ones, get them to evolve, find new moves, all that shit. I had more DS games than any other system that I would go on to own, and I have fond memories of playing it in the car, on road trips with friends at school, at daycare, and pretty much anywhere I went. In the fall of 2013, Microsoft would release the Xbox One. 2013, Sony would also release the PS4. The Xbox One released with the Kinect and required to be online at all times in order to play games and download games. Yeah, I'm sure that didn't go over well. People didn't like that. They didn't want to have to be fucking online to download games or anything like that. To do it all the basic things that a regular console would normally do offline. It was met with heavy backlash at the time, as people were not a fan of an always online approach to gaming. One of PlayStation's biggest points was that it didn't need to always be online to play games and access most features of the console. Microsoft would later ditch the Kinect to appeal to the masses who complained about it being required to always be online. Nintendo would release the Nintendo Switch in 2017, opting to go back in time to a cartridge-based model. This would also be a hybrid console that you could play on your TV and play on the go in handheld mode. Okay, so we got them. So they got both of them now. It sold extremely well, and to this day remains in first place among the big three. I believe its concept is what really started the wave that saw Steam create the Steam Deck, as well as Xbox making the heavy push towards cloud gaming, or being able to play games anywhere without the need for a beefy console. Even Nintendo, who in the previous generations spoke out and said they would not release DLC and that they were against the idea of digital content such as DLC, would start releasing DLC alongside their more popular games such as Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, Mario Kart, and even Animal Crossing. This generation would also see the removal of manuals alongside games, as well as a huge increase in digital game purchases and a push towards digital games as well. Now, Nintendo released cloud versions of games for full price. This means you must be connected to the internet in order to play them, which completely defeats the purpose of the hybrid console model which Nintendo pushed so heavily for. With consoles always being online, there were countless games released unfinished, or in many cases broken, and then they were fixed later, or had a day one patch that would fix major bugs or issues that were present in the game upon release. This was done in order to meet release date quotas set by publishers only seeking to make money, as games were heavily monetized. Games are heavily monetized. Season passes, battle passes, and fully priced games, and many other shady tactics are used in some of the most loved series. I'm sure some of you are asking, where are we going and why am I so scared to go there? Many positives to digital games include convenience and the ability to buy your games anywhere on your phone and have them ready to play when you get home. Updates can be added that adds new content and more content and new features on the current game. It can take advantage of sales that may not be had in person. Games are more widely available, and smaller developers have a greater chance to have their games noticed. However, there are many negatives to this feature. Many times the full game is not even on the disc you buy, and when you buy games digitally, you're only buying access to play the game, like a key. You don't actually get to own the game, so the marketplace or the developers or whatever could just take that away from you at any time. With things being digital, they run on servers, and if the servers go down, you don't have access to the games anymore. Being able to fix their mistakes post-launch has made some developers and many publishers to get lazy and release half-assed, unfinished, and sometimes broken games into the market, only to meet a certain deadline that doesn't need to exist. Many games feature a similar gameplay loop, have you doing repetitive, mundane tasks before feeding you a story mission with a cutscene here or there. New players won't get the experience that older gamers or people who enjoy the older games would get, lacking story and fully pushing towards monetization at every press of a button. They won't get to experience the pure and amazing feeling of anticipating a game release and then venturing to the game store to get it, as well as the unboxing experience that comes along with that game, as well as the feeling of just owning, having something tangible that you can pick up and feel and whatnot, put on a shelf or display or something like that. You don't get that with digital games like that. In conclusion, video games have been a huge part of my and many others' childhoods and lives in general. They hold a special place in many of our hearts, and it's a damn shame to see where the industry is headed and to see how the legacies of many series have been tarnished by publishers who don't have the games those legacies are tied to with their best interest at heart. Hell, nowadays you don't even own the games you're buying. If you buy them digitally, you're buying a license to play the game. Even physical games nowadays come with day one patches that people with a good internet connection won't be unable to install, which may be fixing huge bugs or other issues that may occur with the game and may make the game unplayable, which is fucking ridiculous. And I think we should be holding them more accountable for what they're doing right in front of our faces, and we're just sitting back and taking it. I get it. It's cool to fucking get the game sitting at home. But think about how that's affecting the quality of games overall. I just hope that one day we can find the balance between the two. You know, maybe put more time into the game before it comes out. Stop trying to set rigorous deadlines and come out with yearly games and yearly releases and everything like that. You know, it's sad to see, man. And I just don't want to see such a great industry go to waste and be solely driven by profit, when that's not what they started out to be. But hey, what the fuck do I know? I'm just fucking another random dude. I hope you guys enjoyed this one. If you did, drop a like, comment, subscribe, and yeah, hope y'all have a good one. Peace.